prior to Tsuut'ina entering into Treaty 7, the treaty making process was something that, we already engaged in, prior to contact with our surrounding, surrounding indigenous nations and relatives. And so the concept of treaty isn't something that's new to Treaty 7. And in, the elders, the translation that I was given for treaty, it's Najuna, Ats'ila, and it translates into that process of making relatives. And so that was the approach we took when entering into Treaty 7, and how we've upheld our end of the treaty and carried ourselves, throughout history. And so I think that's really good advice on, starting at treaty, in terms of relationship building. But I think it's also really important to start at like a common understanding or shared understanding of treaty. In the Western worldview, like a treaty is, could be like a cold document, legal process. In our worldview, Tsuut'ina, it's like much more than that. It's like making relatives, traditional, historical treaties with other tribes. Sometimes they could be marked by, exchanging children and those types of things where you're actually, but you are making relatives. And so, yeah, I think going forward, when we approach working together with that mind frame on making relatives and we're all in this together, it's more of a like collective understanding and mutually beneficial all around. And
yeah, when you look at again, the treaty agreements, the spirit and intent of treaty, and why it was signed, what our ancestors, their understanding of those agreements, was a shared, approach, stewards of the lands as opposed to ownership. And when you transfer, some of those concepts into the service agreement, when you go back to that concept of child rearing, our children, they don't belong to us. We share them and we only have them for a certain point of time, and then, they go on to live their lives. And, so looking at, what is our role as an education department, and, and entering into agreements with our relatives, and how do we, build that shared understanding and work together as relatives, to share knowledge for our students.